What is up, everybody? My name is Dion, but you can call me Isby, and welcome to Listicles, the show where I give my objectively correct opinion to a list or an article that I find online. Now, if you follow me on TikTok, then you know that I used to do this series where I would review internet lists all the time, and then I just stopped doing it. The main reason why I really wanted to do it in a YouTube format is because I realized that the videos were getting longer and longer, especially with TikTok allowing 10-minute videos. I ended up making like 5, 6, 7 minute long videos, and I was still having to cut back on some things that I wanted to say just because I couldn't fit it in the time frame. So I figured here it's free form. I can either make it really short or I can make it really long, and regardless, you guys will enjoy it, hopefully. If you don't enjoy, keep it to yourself. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, comment, do all the YouTube things. And our first list on this series is going to be this list from CBR. This list, which was published back in February, which should tell you how long it's been since I've wanted to do the series. 10 Batman villains that can never work on the big screen. So this list was written by Spencer Spencer Balls. As the DCU prepares to revisit Batman for the millionth time, and people theorize who might face off against the Dark Knight, it's time to accept that some villains won't work on the big screen. When discussing the genre of superhero films, sometimes they're only as good as the villains that star in them. With a long history of an extensive list of enemies, there's no shortage of foes for the Batman in his war on crime. However, some Batman antagonists are too strange, obscure, or unsuitable to be the main villain in a movie adaptation. Now that's important. The article is about characters who wouldn't be the main villain in a movie adaptation, and I think that that's very different than including them in a live action film. Just because they're not main character energy doesn't mean that we wouldn't be able to enjoy them in a live action film. And I feel like I haven't seen the article yet, but I imagine Condiment King is probably somewhere on here. I would enjoy, especially with James Gunn doing the DCU, and we already have Damian Wayne, Dick Grayson's, and Jason Todd, and Tim Drake are already going to be there because Damian Wayne's going to be the Robin, and obviously we're going to have a slightly older Batman. Like, with that in mind, I wouldn't mind to set the tone of the DCU Batman, and especially to separate it from the Batman, from Pattinson Batman, to start it off with the Condiment King. That would be my suggestion, to start off where Condiment King's like wreaking havoc or he's trying to rob a bank or something, and then Batman and Damian Wayne show up and save the day, right? I think that that would be an interesting take, and we would be able to see the Condiment King on live action. But I agree, I don't think the Condiment King would be a live action hero or live action villain that we would see for an entire film. Then it says, as the DCU shifts direction under director James Gunn, audiences wonder which characters might return and make their theatrical debut or be completely forgotten. And to start off, they start off with Baby Doll. A movie could never channel Batman's TV tragedy. Do I agree with this? Off the top of my head. See, I would really like the idea of them doing Killer Croc and Baby Doll, but again, I don't think that it should be an origin. Like, I agree with the concept that Baby Doll might be interesting as a secondary villain, but as the main antagonist, probably not. But I wouldn't mind for her to be in a secondary antagonist, or you could even do like Killer Croc, Baby Doll, add somebody else, and have the concept of the movie be, you know, disfigurement, because that's really why Killer Croc and Baby Doll worked in the animated series, even though that episode is relatively controversial, or specifically the Killer Croc and Baby Doll one. A lot of people are like iffy on that one, but like obviously everyone likes the original Baby Doll. But the remake, or for Batman, what was it? Batman and the New Adventures of Batman and Robin. That was it. They changed a lot. You can just even tell in the design, like between the two Baby Dolls, it's basically completely different characters. But I wouldn't mind to see like an entire film dedicated to this sort of relationship. And I don't think we would get realistically, I don't think we would get Killer Croc in the main antagonist in the movie too. I think Killer Croc would also be a secondary antagonist. I could be wrong. I don't think I am. So like, I would do a movie where it's like Killer Croc, Baby Doll, Clayface, that would be the idea. Clayface would be the main antagonist of the film, and then there would be the secondary antagonist of these two. And I think that would be fun. I think that'd be interesting, maybe. For the record, this was filmed back in October of 2024, but now that we have confirmation that Clayface will be the 4th DCU film starring Alan Tudyk, I think that James Gunn should consider the rest of my ideas and hire me in some role so I can work with the DCU, because obviously we're on the same page. The heartbreaking Batman the Animated Series episode Baby Doll has become a cult classic, introducing one of DC's most underrated characters. However, there's a reason why the titular Baby Doll has finally found the audience she always wanted, and ironically, it doesn't allow for a full Hollywood treatment. Born with a condition that prevents her from physically aging, Mary Lucy Doll, aka Baby Doll, is a former sitcom star who ruined her career by chasing more mature roles with the mental health, blah 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 blah, we already know. With an emotional backstory and bizarre gimmick, she has all the makings of a great Batman villain. However, the smaller, more intimate stories that work well for Baby Doll aren't enough for a feature-length film, and former attempts to elevate her plots to gander scales resulted in ludicrous episode Love is a Crock. Baby Doll only works on television as much as she hates being typecast, it's where she truly shined. And again, I like I said, I knew that it was probably gonna say that Love is Crock is not a great episode, which it does get a little weird towards the middle of the episode when they like imply the relationship, which has its own connotations that we're not getting into. But I still think that this would be a nice secondary plot line, in my opinion. To be the main antagonist, I agree, definitely not. To be not in the movie at all, I could understand, but we were doing so well, and now we get to Killer Moth. Despite being one of Batman's iconic villains, Killer Moth occupies a strange niche within his rogues galleries, not as enjoyably absurd as Batman's TV classic antagonist, and not as quite as compelling as his darker ones. It's time that the sad truth comes to light, with the hopes that Killer Moth doesn't crash into along the way. While Killer Moth has made appearances in TV adaptations like Batgirl, The Batman, and Teen Titans, Batgirl had a show? Oh, wait. Yeah, Batwoman had a show, I knew that. That definitely says Batgirl TV adaptations. They can't possibly be talking about the Batwoman television show, no? They couldn't possibly. They couldn't possibly. What? This is why I hate CBR. Casting him as the main antagonist in a Batman film would be a stretch. The character lacks the presence and widespread recognition necessary to anchor a successful movie, often portrayed inconsistently as either an antithesis to the Batman or a bizarre insect monster. Killer Moth poses a challenge for writers who struggle to do anything entertaining with him. So I feel like this, okay, so for one, I agree, I could absolutely, again, like I was saying with the Condiment King, I could see Killer Moth starting a Batman film, kind of being like a throwaway villain. But to see them basically, they're like, he poses a challenge for writers who struggle to do anything entertaining. That sounds like a writer's problem. That doesn't sound like a Killer Moth problem. It sounds like the writers don't know how to write him. You know what I'm saying? Like, that doesn't sound like it's his fault. That sounds like people don't know how to write him. That's like saying writers don't know how to make Superman without making him too powerful. That's not Superman's fault. That's 100% on the writers. So there's that. But then also, I feel like they even say here, like, often portrayed inconsistently as either an antithesis to the Batman. The entire concept when Killer Moth was first created is that he was anti-Batman. he was Batman for the bad guys. He gave the goons and the criminals of Gotham a killer moth signal, so that way Batman can, like, you know, the Gotham City police had a bat signal and they could summon the Batman to help them. And then the goons had a killer moth signal and they could summon killer moth to save or get them, whatever. Fucking, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, here, looking at it, that would make great for a movie, I feel. You know what I mean? Like, the entire concept of Batman having a literal anti-Batman. When the bat signal is raised, so is the killer moth signal, and now they gotta fight. I feel like that would be a good plot line. No? Is that just me? I feel like that would be smart. Now, I do agree. I think that a lot of times they make Killer Moth not that, right? Killer Moth, a lot of times, just is a guy who likes a flamethrower or some sort of weird bug creature or whatever. It's not what he's supposed to be. But if they did that, the second one, I could understand why they don't want him to be the main antagonist. I would like, if they went with like, he's some sort of mutant bug hybrid scientist, whatever, right? I would want that to be in the beginning of a Man-Bat movie, because I swear to God, if Man-Bat is on this list, I'm gonna lose my mind. I think Man-Bat would be a fantastic main character, main antagonist movie villain for Batman. I feel like it would be terrifying, and I feel like it would be fun, and I feel like it would be an interesting story. So I could see Killer Moth being like the intro to that, or at least like cameoing in that. But if we're going with anti-Batman, I would watch that movie. Maybe you would, I don't know. I feel like that would be good. All right, number 3, why Alfred's outlandish career as a supervillain would never work. Alfred's death, wait, what? Alfred's death came as a result of Comics Code and the criticism that Wayne Manor was too gay, setting up Dick Grayson's Aunt Harriet, as his replacement. Well, she was in the 66 show, so I don't know how long ago this was. Let's see. The Batman introduced an interesting twist into the Caped Crusaders narrative, questioning whether the Waynes were the heroes Bruce revered. However, taking Alfred Pennyworth's villainous alter ego to the big screen would likely be met with reception as chilly as... not even gonna try to pronounce that word. Alfred, a soldier, British intelligence agent, actor, cherished member of the Bat family, has led a multifaceted and action-packed life. However, things took a peculiar turn when Alfred sacrificed himself, returned from the grave, and assumed the role known as the Outsider. I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea what this is talking about. I'm assuming Alfred is still dead, based on the little research that I have, and I haven't heard anybody talk about it. So I don't know at what point this particular plot line happened that they're referring to. I don't know if this was a recent thing or not. I'm assuming that it's not, due to the fact that it says Alfred's death came as a result of the Comics Code, which was a very, very long time ago. And obviously the Wayne Manor being too gay thing was back in like the 50s or 60s. So I don't think that he's still dead, but you never know. But I will say I do agree with this. Alfred as a supervillain would not work, and I think a lot of people would hate that. Especially considering, again, I've never heard of this, so I'd imagine that it's probably not a very popular thing. Moving on. Batman's coveted villain role is best left unexplored. Boo. Boo. EggHead tried to resurrect the Neosaurus, which in reality has been a name assigned to both a herbivore dinosaur and a snapsid. When people think about coveted roles in Batman movies, Joker, Harley Quinn, and Catwoman come to mind. However, who would have thought that within the entire rogues gallery of complex villains, EggHead would be the role that some of Hollywood's most excellent headliners would be excited for? Previously, both Eddie Murphy and Nicolas Cage have expressed interest in portraying the character. I don't need anything more. I don't even need to read the rest of your argument. That alone, I would watch that film. You give me Nicolas Cage or Eddie Murphy or both of them as a Batman villain named EggHead. I don't need to have any explanation. I don't need any words. I don't need any research. That's good enough for me. as I predicted, Condiment King is on this list. I knew he was going to be on this list. It doesn't surprise me. But, like I said, I would imagine him in an opening scene as a main antagonist. No. But as an opening scene to set the tone of the film, absolutely. The big screen Batman movie musical nobody wants. Now, if we got Neil Patrick Harris to reprise his role, and it was a musical, I would be down for that. Now, personally, I like musicals, so I think there's that. I think that the majority of people probably wouldn't. I could definitely see this movie failing, and objectively, I do have to admit, I don't think they would ever do Music Meister as the main antagonist in a film, unless, of course, like I said, he was just the opener. But, personally, I would enjoy the hell out of this movie. Give me a Batman musical with like other supervillains and superheroes and they're singing, and obviously you can do other things like, you know, crime, obviously, you know, have it be a regular Batman detective film, but it's also a musical. I would enjoy that, especially if, like I said, you get Neil Patrick Harris again to play Music Meister like he did in Brave and the Bold. That would be fantastic. With that being said, I don't think we're ever gonna get that. I would enjoy that. I don't think we're ever gonna get that. But also, there's literally a musical called, I think it's Holy Musical Batman, or Holy, what is it? Yeah, I was right. Holy Musical Batman. I would enjoy it. Give me an adaptation of Holy Musical Batman, and I know it's not like official, but give me an adaptation of Holy Musical Batman with Music Meister being the villain, with Neil Patrick Harris starring as Music Meister, and fuck it, we'll add Nicolas Cage and Eddie Murphy as the egg guy. And we'll throw in Condiment King in the beginning of the film. There we go. That's my pitch for the DCU. I would write this film, honestly. Again, don't think it's gonna happen, but I would enjoy it. Next up, the swan song of Isaac Crow is pure punk paranoia. I've never heard of this character, so maybe they're right. The Penguin, Mr. Freeze, and Joker are all iconic villains within Batman's history, known for their extravagant costumes. Alright, we don't need to know this. If Isaac Crow is famous for anything, it's the memes and comedic commentary he inspired from famed comic reviewers like Linktr.ee. Despite the Batman soundtrack famously featuring Navarro's Something in the Way, it hardly necessitates an exploration of music or Isaac Crow's inclusion. A rock star whose bizarre crimes drove him over the edge and into Batman's crosshairs, Isaac's social commentary came with the revelation that the Wayne family saw rock music as some sort of corrupting force, with a Batman proclaiming, "Punk is nothing but death and crime and the rage of the beast." Okay, wait. Add this to the Music Meister movie. Okay, we don't need the Condiment King in the beginning, right? We have this guy, and the movie starts with Batman proclaiming, "Punk is nothing but death, crime, and the rage of the beast." Robin. Start the film with that, and then Music Meister shows up and is like, "Batman, I'm gonna teach you a lesson. All music is the devil." Alright, next one. The Chronicles of the Clone Crusader are too bizarre. As baffling as he can be, Bizzaro is one of Superman's most iconic villains. While Bizzaro continues to learn and remains a mainstay in Superman stories, few remember Batman's criminal counterpart cut from the same cloth. Probably because there's an entire, anti-Justice League on Bizzaro world. But Bizarro's a Superman villain, so no one cares. Originating from Joker and Superman's Mr. Mxyzptlk, Bat-Zaro lives up to the name as one of DC's strangest characters. Equipped with a pair of pistols and a chunk of blue kryptonite, his twisted sense of justice has him attacking couples who walk down Gotham's alley. Crime Alley. Although dark reflections of Batman, like The Batman Who Laughs or Owlman, make for delightfully disturbing stories, why Bizzaro wouldn't work in the movie in a movie is a mystery that even the world's greatest detective can solve. Bizzaro is too weird and obscure to work in a Batman film with more engaging characters that can fill the role of Dark Knight's distorted mirror image. Now, I do agree. I think Azrael Batman movie would work better if we're doing like the evil Batman storyline. Please, never, ever put this fuckhead in live action, please. Owlman would only work if we're going... I would only want Owlman. Here's the thing. I think Crisis on Two Earths, the animated film, that is an amazing film through and through. Like, legitimately, I think that is one of the best animated Justice League films. I think that is the best animated Justice League film. I could be wrong. I'm not. But if we're doing... Batman Crisis on, or if we're doing Justice League Crisis on Two Earths, that's when I would want Owlman. I wouldn't want Owlman in a Batman film by himself. And as for Bizzaro, same thing. I wouldn't want the Bizzaro family involved unless it's a Superman film, or if we're going with the entire Justice League, we could do a small Justice League. We would do like a cameo where, like, again, the beginning of the film is Superman getting help from the Justice League to fight the anti-Justice League from Bizzaro World, right? But shut up. And finally, Batman movie should beware the Bat-Mite. A more pest than a villain, Bat-Mite has the all charm of a headache and the motivations of an overly avid Batman enthusiast, while a being like Bat-Mite comes with an opportunity to make some self-aware commentary and amusingly mild mind-bending scenarios as the driving antagonist, it'd be one of the weirdest film adaptations of all time. Okay, I agree with that, and I think that I would have to say that's probably why we would never get a Bat-Mite adaptation. Not because Bat-Mite shouldn't be on the main screen, but because I don't think that any writer would have the ability to properly write a Bat-Mite script. I think Bat-Mite is very careful because if you're too pessimistic with it, you just come off as a hater, which is not the idea of Bat-Mite, right? You're supposed to be a fan. But if you're too soft with it, you just get a weird, annoying dude in the middle of your film. So I think there would have to be a solid middle ground that maybe James Gunn might be able to do, but again, that would be a hard maybe. I don't know any directors off the top of my head that would be like good at maintaining the balance of the character that Bat-Mite is. Now, with that being said, because they mentioned Mr. Mxyzptlk here, that would be an interesting film for World's Finest. If we're doing, because already James Gunn has said that Batman and Superman, if they do a film, that's Batman and Superman, the film will be called World's Finest. Makes sense. I would actually see that being a good film to do Mr. Mxyzptlk and Bat-Mite. Like, essentially the film in my head, off the top of my head, would be like Bat-Mite and Mr. Mxyzptlk kind of fighting each other, and Batman and Superman would be in the middle of it. I think that could be an interesting film. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think it would be bad. I think it would be interesting. I would enjoy that. But with that being said, those were the 10 characters that CBR says would never work on the big screen. And while I agree that this was a decent list, the majority of them probably wouldn't work as main antagonists for one reason or another. This was not the worst CBR list, so I will admit that. Again, I don't appreciate that they immediately went with Killer Moth, because I think Killer Moth should be up here. Killer Moth should be top 10. Like, put Baby Doll way further down the list, and then put Killer Moth at top 10, and I'll give it to you. But yeah, not a bad list at all, actually. One of the better CBR lists. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you agreed. Let me know if there's anybody you would add or take away. Let me know your thoughts. And as always, make sure you go in the description, go to the link, look at other videos that I have on this channel, because I probably have other videos on this channel right now. So go do that. Subscribe, like, comment, do all the YouTube things. And as always, my name is Dion, but you can call me SB, and I'm out.